Siddharth, what's the view that you're getting in that bounce back that we saw in early part of last week? We've given up those gains. Of course, we'll talk about Infosys separately, but on the market front, what's the view right now?
Well, there is always a possibility of 2-3% further cut on the back of intensified selling, but I think that caution was always there when market bounced back to 9900 in the last week. So of course, market is still what we believe is maybe in a range. Fundamentally speaking, there is not much things have changed here, but the point is stock specific one has to look at in terms of investments. Wherever the results has come good, I think those companies one can always accumulate at the lower levels.
Right. Specifically on an Infosys now, what's the strategy? What's the call? Clearly, the buyback announcement has failed to excite the street. Do you feel that the stock could be suppressed for some time going forward from here at least?
Quite possible from here because let's go little behind. Buyback news was only keeping the stock afloat near 1000. Then after this event happened of CEO Vishal Sikka resigning, and it is tumbling down. Even the buyback news once is coming out is not also exciting, and the stock is still weak in terms of numbers are concerned. So overall, what we believe is if somebody is holding it, tender it into the buyback. No fresh buying and is suggested. Avoid the stock for any fresh buying at the current levels.
Avoid the stock for any fresh buying at current levels. What about Tata Motors, Siddharth? We were talking about this just before we took a break. Now, the company is talking about a turnaround plan. There have been management changes. They're looking to regain some of their lost CV share. And they're saying that their profit, the bottom line could increase by 1500 crore rupees. Now, that is a significant amount. Why is the street not excited about this?
Maybe it's one of those days when the street is little weak, market is little weak, and the stock is not able to respond. Of course, in 2 years back, Tata Motors was in a better shape in terms of profits and margins for that matter. So that can be also one of the reasons which is not exciting the street. But at the current levels and the kind of plans Tata Motor management is showing, I think it is optimistic in terms of numbers are concerned. And there is always an opportunity at these levels. Tata Motors can be accumulated because what we believe is the kind of knee-jerk reactions JLR has seen in US or China. I think that is short-term driven. I think JLR turnaround as well as CV cycle here in the domestic business, then Tata Motor can do fabulously well in medium-term perspective. I think one can keep accumulating this stock and look out for this turnaround story for next 6 to 8 months as management is indicating.
Right. Just before I talk to Himen about Tata Motors, NIFTY, the market cap briefly slipped below the 2 lakh crore mark. It's above that, it's regained that, but the market cap did briefly slip below the 2 lakh crore mark. So watch out for that. Remember, in Friday's rout, the stock lost about 25,000 odd crores in market cap. So it's been losing money and it's lost another 5% today. Excess of 15% of a cut coming in just the last 2 days. Himen, we've spoken about NIFTY, but let's talk about Tata Motors. This stock, what should investors do right now? Because it's at about 370 odd levels. The fundamentals haven't improved or haven't looked good in a long time. You rely on JLR as far as the fundamentals are concerned. But on the charts, really, Tata Motors, after this dip, is it becoming a buying opportunity?
Deep, not yet, because being oversold is just one of the criteria one would look for a stock to go long. You would need higher tops, higher bottoms, indicated support, quite a few other things. So nothing of that is yet visible. I think the crucial level was 430, 420. I think that level was holding for some time now. We've decisively broken that and we've gone further. So yes, on the weekly chart, on the daily chart and on the monthly chart, Tata Motors is a sell on all counts. So I'd wait for the stock to stabilize. I'm not sure if catching a falling knife seems like a great idea, because beyond the oversold situation, which may remain omnipresent for a few months actually, no supports yet visible and no reversals yet. There's no positive divergences, so I'd prefer to wait.
Prefer to wait, so maybe don't get enticed by the fall in the counter and look at it as a buying opportunity yet. Wait for some of those trend signals to emerge before you get into this one with conviction. Heyman, have you looked at a Manappuram Finance 11.5% up move coming in on that counter in today's trading session? There were a couple of block deals in this counter earlier today as well, but what's going on with Manappuram?
I have no technical explanation. Two, I think it seems more like a recovery. It would be just a bit, it's a bit nascent. I'm not sure if we can label that as a rally. Stock went from 110 to sub 82. We went to 90, 91, came back, and we are bouncing back. So I still have a feeling we are retracing the fall. And if this has to change, we would need a close above 102. Till then, nothing changes. So yes, near term maybe the momentum, but I still take this as a bounce. Sustainability is still suspect.
Sustainability is still suspect, and that's the key word from Heyman. What about you, Siddharth? Do you have coverage on a Manappuram Finance? Any triggers for this up move in the stock?
Well, there has been a block in Manappuram Finance, as has been reported through some of the medias. Apart from that, of course, in the NBFC space, this company has been doing good. The non-gold income and the other finance businesses are getting traction. Of course, there can be a good momentum, or in terms of numbers are concerned going forward. We had a coverage on Manappuram and achieved our target price. But I think at the lower levels, there can be a good opportunity for accumulation of this stock with a medium-term perspective. As a whole, we are quite positive on the NBFC space completely. Manappuram was one of them. Apart from that, in the MFI space also, we like Equitas, although numbers are not coming in, numbers are little tepid in nature. But it is because of the kind of expansion plan the company is doing on the back of small finance bank license. I think once these things this year goes, or next 1 or 2 quarters pass through, I think there would be a good performance in Equitas also. So Manappuram can be a buy on dips, and Equitas is definitely a buy at the current levels with a 12-month perspective.
Heyman, in this recent market down move, banks have been the key culprit. So the bank Nifty is down about 5% month to date. The Nifty PSU index, the PSU bank index, this is what I'm talking about, almost 13% down on a month to date basis. So that is clearly one key pocket of weakness in the markets. You've had metals that have done well. You've had a couple of other pockets that have done well. But banks is where the bulk of selling has happened, as it were. What's the outlook as far as the charts on the bank Nifty go, as far as some of the charts on some of the individual banks go?
I think slightly similar to the Nifty, Deep, and like you said, the bank, the NSE PSU Bank Nifty has been particularly more weak. Coming back to the Bank Nifty, same situation, the lower top, lower bottom, but we are at a slightly precarious situation. Bank Nifty is taking support on the 55-day exponential moving average. We close below that. And that for that to happen, it would need to close below 23,800. I'm not saying an intraday breach. We need a daily close. So if that happens, a Bank Nifty spot below 23.8, I think then that opens a door for 23.4 and maybe 23. So things don't look too good over there. We saw 5 trading session sideways movement deep, which could have been a accumulation. But looking at the price movement today, it seems more like a distribution. So we saw a fall, we saw sideways move with the stock. The Bank Nifty tried to stabilize, didn't sustain, and now we are breaking downwards.
Absolutely. And Siddharth, what's the analysis over here? Could there be prolonged weakness coming in for the banking pack? Because we were talking about this earlier as well. And liquidity was one of the factors that was holding banking stocks up, because earnings-wise, I don't know where the fundamental trigger lies if you look at Q1 earnings for banks. But clearly, if the pain were to intensify, can we see the cracks widen as far as the banking stocks go?
Well, there is always a possibility of weakness in banking stocks, provided we would like to bifurcate in this, that private banking space, we are constructive in some of the companies like IndusInd Bank, Yes Bank at the lower levels for that matter, City Union Bank, which we like in the mid-cap private banking space. PSU can be a big drag. except SBI, I think other companies have not been performing asset quality front. Still, there is a lot of pressure if you look at the mid-cap PSUs. So it's a completely no-no and a avoid in the mid-cap PSU space, whereas in the large-cap PSU space, only State Bank of India looks a little promising. Can be bought at the current levels with a medium-term perspective, because of a major reason is the kind of consolidation impact will come going forward because of the other subsidiaries and other subsidiaries consolidating with the company. I think State Bank of India, looking at the management body language and the kind of commentary they have been giving, I think there is some kind of improvement which is happening in the balance sheet. So State Bank of India in the PSU space, IndusInd and City Union Bank in the private space.
IndusInd and City Union Bank in the private space. Himen, let's talk about a couple of stocks that have held out, hit 52-week highs on the trot for the last few trading sessions. I'm talking about Tata Global, of course, and we were talking about this earlier. This stock hasn't done much for a while, but suddenly it's on a big uptrend. On a YTD basis also, you will see strong up move coming in on this counter. If somebody was looking at Tata Global right now, what would your advice be?
If you have a position hold, if you were to buy fresh, I'd say buy on declines. It's been a non-performer deep for a long time. If you look at the charts, it hasn't done anything for a donkey's years. I think this current breakout, it's been a multi-year breakout. We posted a fresh all-time high, but it's been a 5-year consolidation, then a breakout. So buy on declines.
Buy on declines. That's the view on a Tata Global. Siddharth, let me come to you with the same question. Let me just expand the scope of that question, because a couple of stocks that have been moving in the last few weeks have been from the consumption universe. They may not be operating in the same domain, but they are part of the larger consumption basket. So Tata Global Beverages, of course, Bata. You also have a Blue Star that has done well recently, something like a Titan. If you were looking at this basket from a larger view, where would your preferences lie? And of course, from the names that I've mentioned, any of the names that you like?
Well, the names which you mentioned, none of the stock which we cover, but amongst the stocks which you have mentioned, I think Bata seems little promising, because the kind of global CEOs commentary comes in terms of the outlook of the business for the company. Post GST, the kind of pre-GST, all the companies has been feeling the heat. I think Bata, the kind of numbers they have reported is quite good against the tide. So the stocks amongst you mentioned, Bata looks a little promising with a medium-term perspective, and let's not forget that over the last 3 years it has been underperformer. So there is always a possibility of a good performance. In the consumption pack, yes, we do have some of the coverage and some of the recommendations, and amongst that, in the pure FMCG play, we like Imami. Although the numbers were a little disappointing, but overall perspective, that was because of some kind of adjustments in numbers which will not be seen in next quarter. So we believe Imami looks interesting in the consumption space with a target of 1400.
Right, target of 1400 on Imami from the consumption universe. Himen, any stocks on your radar as we head into closing right now? You have the markets down about 0.9% right now at 97.50.
Few stocks which look promising. One we spoke, Tata Global. I think Jubilant Foodworks is another stock which has broken out. Bata has probably started a yearly uptrend. So for the next couple of years, or maybe 18 months, 2 years, Bata looks positively interesting. And the last one is Container Corporation. I think that is another stock which looks very promising. It's sort of broken out and is currently consolidating a bit, but I think in a bad market, this looks very interesting.
Bata incidentally has hit a fresh 52-week high in trade today as well, although the move hasn't been too big. Container Corp also at a fresh 52-week high, so watch out for this one as well, although it's fallen in the last few minutes. Siddharth, you also have a couple of names on your list. There is a Graphite India, if I'm not mistaken, that too has hit a 52-week high today.
Yes, of course. Graphite India, we've been recommending through your channel since 170. The price was quoting. Today it is around 250 to 60. We still believe there is a lot of potential in Graphite India with a target of 296, purely on the back of rising in realizations of electrodes, which is predominantly used in the steel and metal industry. And if you look at the steel prices realizations, it is higher than 100%. So overall steel demand is also a little improving. Prices are getting better. Electrodes will go the same way. We believe that Graphite had posted a good set of numbers. Margin was also from 4% to 10%, and this run rate can continue. So Graphite, which we like, with a target of 296, and the other company is again a niche business in the cordage industry, Garware Wall Rope. They're the leaders in polymer cordage industry, catering to many other industries like shipping, sports, agri, and so on and so forth. The biggest play can be defense, where the company has a potential to grow to 2500 crore as order book. So overall perspective, Garware Wall Rope in terms of a niche play with a target of 1025 can be bought.